We're going to pass temporarily on file item 54. Moving to file item 55. That's AB 726. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 726 by Assemblymember Nazarian and others enact relating to vehicles.
Mr. Nazarian, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. AB 726 is back on concurrence, has enjoyed bipartisan support, and I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 68, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 56, AB 759. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 759 by Assemblymember Linder enact relating to recreational vehicles.
Mr. Linder, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 759 is back from the Senate, where it took amendments to address technical cross-referencing issues and reserve a chaptering out conflict. The measure has received unanimous bipartisan support and is necessary to clarify the operations of the new Motor Vehicle Board. I respectfully ask for aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 57 is AB 854. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 854 by Assemblymember Weber enact relating to educational services, declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Dr. Weber, you may open.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, I bring back to you AB 854 for concurrence. This is the enacting legislation that would release $25.4 million has been allocated for programs to align the foster youth services with the local control funding formula. It has taken us a while to basically get the support of all of those who were there, making sure that there would be no one left behind. It has an urgency clause because we don't want children to be without resources and then want the bill implemented immediately. It's had no votes in our House or the other House as well as on committees, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote. There's 54 votes required to implement this.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 67, no 0 on the urgency. Ayes 67, no 0 on the measure. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item number 58. That's AB 921. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 921 by Assemblymember Jones enacting relating to private investigators.
Mr. Jones, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am not rising for a point of order or to disagree with your ruling, but I am asking the members of the Assembly to agree with the Senate in some excellent amendments to my bill and ask for an aye vote in concurrence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 59 is AB 953. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 953 by Assemblymember Weber and others enact relating to racial profiling.
Dr. Weber.
Yes, Mr. Speakers and members, we have AB 953, the Racial and Identity Profiling Act of 2015, back on concurrence. We know the history of what we've endured for the last year with regards to racial profiling and police misconduct. This bill is a reasonable bill that makes an effort to, for once, begin to collect data concerning racial profiling in the state. It has received a lot of support from a number of advocates. It will not only satisfy the void that we have, but it would modernize California's prohibition against profiling so that it aligns with the guidelines recently adopted by the Federal Department of Justice, the President's Task Force on 21st Policing. According to our LAO, this reform is necessary because California's current definition of racial profiling is over vague, and law enforcement agencies have resisted following it. Furthermore, pursuant to the recommendations by the Police Executive Reform and the Office of Community-Oriented Policing of the U.S. Department of Justice, AB 953 would create a racial and identity profiling advisory board. We've taken the advice of some of you from in terms of our amendments to make sure that that board is balanced and has a significant number of law enforcement as well as civil rights individuals and members of the community who are dealing with the issues of racial profiling. This reform measure would place California on a trajectory that improves the relationship of trust between law enforcement agencies and the communities that are sworn to protect. I would like to note that the bill has taken a substantial amount of amendments responding to the current concerns of law enforcement by significantly reducing the data point interest required to be collected. We've also eased the implementation of the data collection component of the bill by incorporating a phase-in, starting with the largest agency reporting by 2019 and the smallest by 2023. Members, on September 2nd, you may have witnessed an action where 1,000 individuals traveled here to the state from all over California. These were individuals who shared their anecdotes of hope in moving a proposal that would provide data to either dispute or complement their realities. Most recently, the Sacramento Bee and the LA Times editorials were in support of the bills, noting the importance of data collection and the role that it will play in us moving forward. Last week, Attorney General Harris launched the Open Justice System, which is a statewide data hub, which means the state now has a centralized location for localities to do input and share data. To date, that system will house use of force data. However, the AG has been clear that her intention is to expand its use. This alleviates early accounts that we don't have available to us the type of data hub needed to collect the data. 953 would improve law enforcement community relations by seeking to prevent the harmful and unjust practice of racial and identity profile and promote equal protection for all Californians. I respectfully ask for your concurrence on the Senate amendments.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Mr. Bonta, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise today as a co-author and strong supporter of AB 953, a bill that will give us reliable, quantifiable data to help address the problem of racial and identity profiling. Rather than have an understanding of the problem that is limited to anecdotal accounts and limited data from a few dozen law enforcement agencies, this bill will provide access to comprehensive, reliable data that can help drive and inform evidence-based solutions to the problems we see and experience in our communities across the state. In addition, the bill will create an advisory board bringing diverse representation and voices to the discussion, from civil rights activists to social scientists to victims of racial profiling to policing experts to law enforcement leaders and to legislators, to come together, investigate, and analyze profiling policies and practices and provide recommended solutions to the problem. Members, I recommend and ask for your aye vote on this measure.
Thank you, Mr. Bonta. Seeing no additional discussion or debate, Dr. Weber, you may close.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, as we have gone through much this year in terms of looking at things not only locally but nationally, I think all of us have come to the realization that we're at a critical point in the development in terms of racial profiling and policing in the state. We're at a point where we really need the data. We need the information. Our police officers who are doing a great job every day would welcome this because it would validate the fact that they too have served and served well. At the same time, it provides us with information where there may be problems that exist and gets us away from moving from just hearsay and what people believe is happening to move to a level where we know what's happening, can provide the support and the data that's essential. This is a critical piece in California moving forward for us to, for once, begin to really look at the material and not just rely upon what others have said, but actually look at it, have a task force of individuals who would then begin to structure programs and things that are essential for us to move forward. California cannot afford to be in the state that it is right now without adequate information, adequate programs that will move us forward as a state to an era where we will be proud not only of what we've done, and our children will walk the streets with a level of safety and understanding that when there are issues, we can address it. When there are programs that are going well, we can also share that. But without the data, we cannot. I respectfully ask for you on behalf of the people of California and those who are looking for us for leadership that you support AB 953 in concurrence.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. With that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 All members vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 41, noes 24. Senate amendments are concurred in. Okay, members, we're at file item number 60. That's AB 1097. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1097 by Assemblymember Holden, an act relating to alarm companies.
Mr. Holden, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 1097 is back from the Senate for concurrence. Senate amendments were technical and simply address chaptering out amendments. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 61 is AB 1162. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1162 by Assemblymember Holden and others, an act relating to Medi-Cal.
Mr. Holden, you may again open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 1162 is back on concurrence. Senate amendments reduce costs and simplify implementation. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 56, noes 10. Senate amendments are concurred in.
Colleagues, we are back on file item 62. We have already re-referred back to committee. Going now to file item 63, AB 1305. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1305 by Assemblymember Bonta, an act relating to healthcare coverage.
Mr. Bonta, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1305 prohibits health plans and insurers from giving a person a higher deductible or out-of-pocket cost-sharing limit simply because the person is a member of a family. Senate amendments delay implementation of provisions relating to deductibles in the large group market by 1 year and also make other technical and clarifying changes. The bill has no opposition and it has bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. The Senate amendments are concurred in. Going now to file item 64, AB 1351. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1351 by Assemblymember Eggman and others, enacting to deferred entry of judgment.
Dr. Eggman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 1351 is back on concurrence. The amendments taken in the Senate ensure that this bill does not impact current diversion programs under Penal Code 1001, and it corrects Legislative Council drafting errors. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on concurrence.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 25. Senate amendments are concurred in. Moving now to file item 65, AB 1390. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1390 by Assemblymember Alejo and others, enacting to groundwater.
Mr. Alejo, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Today, I'm proud to present AB 1390 on concurrence, which just received unanimous bipartisan support on the Senate floor yesterday with a 39-0 vote. This bill is a companion bill to Senator Pavley's SB 226 regarding groundwater, which together will bring new efficiency to the process of adjudicating water rights in groundwater basins. These bills have been extensively negotiated between my office, Senator Pavley's office, the governor's office, agricultural interests, the water agencies, and others. In fact, over 15 meetings were held with the governors, with all the stakeholders, to reach the right balance and address concerns. When the governors signed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA, last year, there was an interest in streamlining the adjudication process, and AB 1390 and SB 226 will work in conjunction with SGMA to do just that. The goal of AB 1390 is to clarify court procedures that apply to comprehensive groundwater adjudications to reduce the time and improve the efficiency of the process, thus reducing cost. Specific provisions of this bill will encourage early settlement and avoid undue disruption to local groundwater planning. The bill has received unanimous bipartisan support throughout the process and is supported by the Farm Bureau, the Western Growers, the Agricultural Council, the Cal Chamber, and the Sierra Club. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on this important bill.
Mr. Gallagher, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, members, I want to thank my colleague from Watsonville for his work on this issue and bringing together stakeholders to ensure a process to help define and establish groundwater rights. Many landowners in my district have invested in and utilized surface water instead of fully utilizing their overlying groundwater rights. This helps to sustain and replenish the aquifer. However, there may be surface water cutbacks, as we have seen, and they want to be able to utilize their groundwater rights as may be necessary. And so, a question of the author, if I might, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection.
Can you confirm that the reference to the Long Valley case in Section 830 is to give courts discretion to consider applying Long Valley principles only where necessary to address unreasonable or wasteful uses?
The answer is yes. That is the intent. It's to allow courts to continue considering that Long Valley case that was regarding the prioritization of unexercised water rights.
Yeah. And only where it's necessary to address the unreasonable or wasteful uses, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And then I just want to clarify one more thing, if I might, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection.
And I just want to clarify it is not the intent of the author for Long Valley principles to be applied broadly or to limit the overlying rights of landowners who have traditionally relied upon surface water.
That is correct. Okay. This bill is purely procedural. It's not to change or alter any water rights. That is the intent of this bill.
Okay. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Alejo, you may close.
Thank you, members. In closing, I would just like to state that some concerns that have been raised regarding these unexercised rights, the bill does not change any of those rights, and the bill merely restates a court decision that instructs future courts that may consider it. The bill, like I said, is supported by all our friends in agriculture, the Farm Bureau, the Western Growers, and also has the support of the environmental community, including the Sierra Club and the California League of Conservation Voters. And we all know that that doesn't always happen. We struck the right balance with this bill. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on this important measure.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 63, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Going now to file item 66, AB 1448. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1448 by Assemblymember Lopez and act relating to real property.
Assemblymember Lopez, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1448 is back to the Senate and received strong support and amendments to remove all the opposition. Thank you and ask you for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 17. The Senate amendments are concurred in. Going now to file item 67, AB 1526. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1526 by the Committee on Aging and Long-Term Care and act relating to public health.
Ms. Brown, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, fellow members. AB 1526 is back for concurrence. AB 1526 is a simple bill that will allow us to better understand the vast population of informal caregivers in California. Senate amendments reduce the cost by limiting the survey to a one-time only effort rather than annual. Unpaid caregivers provide $48 billion worth of care every year. Informal caregivers are the long-term care program. That's for lack of a better word. Without the long-term care, without that caregiver that's at home, the state budget would be overwhelmed. I ask for your aye vote on this cost-effective and simple approach to acquiring the data necessary to make good, efficient decisions about our rapidly aging population. As you know, 1,000 people a day are turning 65 in California. And if you aren't a caregiver today, believe me, you will be one soon. The minimum effort of this bill will produce quality data. It will be a thriller in Manila, which sets us up for good decisions in the future. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 69, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Going now to file item 68, AB 1535. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1535 by the Committee on Elections and Redistricting and acting to elections.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. Speaker, colleagues, I rise to present the omnibus elections and redistricting proposal for this year. We have minor and technical changes to the Elections Code, as is true of most omnibus bills. They were requested at the direction of, or the inquiry of the California Special District Association. No opposition, unanimous support. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 65, no 0. These amendments are concurred in. Colleagues, at this time, we're going to go back through the file. There are a number of items that we had passed over. Mr. Ridley Thomas, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to present file item 12, AB 1020, which is
I have not called that yet.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'm going to call the items that involving Mr. Mullins' items. So with that, if we could go to file item 10, AB 477, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 477 by Assemblymember Mullen and act relating to elections.
Mr. Mullen, you may present.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 477 will reduce the number of legitimate vote-by-mail ballots that are rejected, ensuring fewer voters are disenfranchised by providing for an unsigned ballot statement. Senate amendments simply include technical and non-controversial language for the California Green Party pertaining to their nominating procedures. I ask for an aye vote on concurrence.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, noes 26. The Senate amendments are concurred in. Next. If we can now go to Mr. Mullen's second item, which is file item 54, AB 377, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 371 by Assemblymember Mullen and others, and Act relating to public social services.
Mr. Mullen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 371 will remove the child deprivation rule, the 100-hour rule, for two-parent applicants. The amendments taken in the Senate change the implementation date, made other technical changes. Respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 68, no 0. The Senate amendments are concurred in. And colleagues, going to Mr. Mullen's final item, which is at the end of the file order, which is file item 105, SB 708. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 705 by Senator Hill and others, and Act relating to taxation.
Mr. Mullen.
Mr. Speaker, members, this bill is a similar but more narrowly crafted version of a measure that passed this House earlier this year, AB 464. Senate Bill 705 will grant the counties of San Mateo, my home county, as well as Monterey, with an exemption to the 2% local sales tax cap in order to provide each jurisdiction the necessary flexibility to place a local sales tax measure for transportation before county voters. This bill does not make any changes to vote thresholds. Measures would still need a 2/3 vote of the county's residents for approval. SB 705 simply allows both counties to pose the question before their respective voters. It is supported by local transportation as well as transit agencies. Respectfully ask for an aye vote on Senator Hill's SB 705.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, noes 22. Measure passes. Colleagues, there are two more items we're going to take up at this time. We're going to take up file item 100, which is on Senate third reading file. SB 226. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 226 by Senator Pavley and others, and Act relating to groundwater.
Mr. Alejo, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, again, SB 226 is Senator Pavley's companion bill to my AB 1390 regarding groundwater adjudications that you all just voted on 63-0 unanimously. Under current law, groundwater rights adjudications take an extraordinarily long time or extraordinarily expensive. But this bill, in conjunction with 1390, tackles head-on the various time sinks identified by experts in the field. This bill includes all necessary policy changes to SGMA in the Water Code, while my bill, 1390, addresses all the procedural issues in the Code of Civil Procedures. This includes how adjudications in high or medium priority basins would be accommodated within SGMA without changing any of the policies inherent within SGMA. Again, members, this bill, 226, and my bill are both contingently enacted. They were extensively negotiated by many interests, as stated earlier. I respectfully ask for your aye vote and ask that this bill be have immediate transmittal to the Senate.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 63, noes 2. Measure passes. And also going to now another item in Senate third reading, file item 104, SB 374. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 374 by Senator Arguello and others, and Act relating to local public contracts.
Mr. Mainshine, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to present SB 374, a district measure which brings Sandag into alignment with other transit development agencies by clarifying its authority to utilize the design-build project delivery method. This measure is supported by a broad coalition of stakeholders, including our local chamber, local government officials, and labor organizations. Thank you, and I respectfully request an aye vote.
Ms. Waldron, you're recognized.
Thank you, members. As a San Diego representative, I too support this bill. It will keep it classy, San Diego.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tie the votes. Ayes 69, no 0. This measure will be immediately transmitted to the Senate. At this time, if we're going to go back to the concurrence calendar, and if we could call file item 12, AB 1020, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1020 by Assemblymember Ridley Thomas, an act relating to elections.
Mr. Ridley Thomas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise to present AB 1020, which is an update to the state's vote count process. That's the voter registration database. Three things that were amended into the bill at the request of the Secretary of State are streamlining the voter file and maintenance, eliminating voter registration procedures that are outdated, and updates VOCAL with new federal requirements. And we think that this also ensures protection for confidential voters and their personal information. With that, we would respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tie the votes. Ayes 59, noes 5. These Senate amendments are concurred in. I'd like to recognize Mr. Holden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to suspend Joint Rule 62A, the file notice requirements to allow the Natural Resources Committee to meet and to hear Senate Bill 350 de Leon today, September 10th, 2015, upon adjournment in room 447.
Without objection, such shall be the order. And members, at this time, we are going to be recessing for lunch. During the recess, there will be a Republican caucus. I'll also mention for everyone else, you can go back to your offices, or you can spend time in the Assembly Lounge where members have contributed snacks, including free OJ. This House stands in recess for 90 minutes. We will reconvene at 2:40.